Wyoming, 1883. Some people step off a train looking like they know exactly where they are going. Anna Briggs was not one of them. She was sitting on the bottom step of the Harlow Hotel on a Wednesday afternoon in September with a single canvas bag beside her and the look of someone who has counted her remaining options and found the number smaller than she had hoped. Her hair had come loose at the back. Her dress, brown wool, travel-worn, had been good once and was still trying. She had come from Virginia following her aunt, the last blood she had in the world. The letter had arrived in February. "Come west," her aunt had written. "There is space here. There is something worth starting." Anna had sold what could be sold, packed what remained into the canvas bag, and boarded the first train heading toward the mountains. Her aunt had died 3 weeks before Anna arrived. A lung sickness that moved fast and left nothing behind except an unsigned deed and a small tab at the dry goods store. There was nothing in Virginia to go back to. There was no one in Virginia waiting. So she sat on the hotel steps in Harlow, Wyoming, doing the arithmetic of a woman whose numbers had simply run out. That was when a boy of about 8 stopped directly in front of her, planted his boots in the dust, and looked at her with the open, unguarded gaze of a child who has not yet been taught that looking too long is impolite. He said, "You look like something went wrong." And before Anna could decide how to answer that, a man's voice said, quietly and with the worn patience of long practice, "Jesse." The man was broad-shouldered, dark-haired, with silver coming in at the jaw, wearing a canvas work coat over a flannel shirt with the collar open. He had the look of someone who spent most of his hours outdoors and had long since stopped thinking about it. He was holding a wrapped parcel from the dry goods store and a folded list, and the look he gave the boy had clearly been given many times before, enough times that the groove of it was worn smooth in both of them. "Jesse," he said again. "She looks like something went wrong, Papa," the boy said, without moving his boots an inch. "People have hard days," the man said. "It is not our place to say so. But we could help," Jesse said. The girl, younger, dark-braided hair, standing slightly behind the man's left arm, said nothing at all. She was watching Anna with the calm, absorbing attention of a child who takes in considerably more than she releases. Anna looked at the three of them. "I am fine," she said, which was the answer most available to her, even if it was not the most accurate. The man looked at her the way a rancher looks at a fence line after a hard winter, reading what is actually there rather than what he would prefer to find. "Thomas Wren," he said. He moved the parcel to his left arm and put out his right hand. "This is Jesse. That is Clara." "Anna Briggs," she said, and shook it. "You are not from Harlow," he said. "Virginia," she said. "I came looking for my aunt." Something shifted in his face. Not pity, which she had been bracing for. Something quieter and more serious than pity. The recognition of a man who has looked for something and found the space where it used to be. "Did you find her?" he said. She looked at the street running out in front of the hotel. "She passed before I got here," she said. Jesse had gone still beside his father. Clara had moved one small step closer to Thomas's side. "I am sorry," Thomas Wren said, and the weight in it was real, the weight of a man who has said those words about himself and understands what they cost. "Is there somewhere you are staying?" he said. She looked at the hotel door behind her, then back at him. "I am working on that," she said. She had $3.80. The hotel was $1.75 a night. She had enough for 2 nights, which gave her 2 days to find work before the arithmetic became a crisis. She had not told Thomas Wren any of that. She spent the afternoon doing what the situation required. The dry goods store had no positions. The restaurant on Main Street was fully staffed through winter. The schoolhouse already had its teacher. The laundry at the north end of town was a possibility, run by a woman named Mrs. Garner, who looked at Anna's hands with the practiced eye of someone distinguishing between women who had done hard work and women who believed they had. Anna had done hard work. She had been doing it since she was 15, the year her mother died, and the running of the household fell to her without anyone asking if she wanted the job. Cooking and mending and accounts and the relentless daily management of a life that needed managing. Mrs. Garner said she might have something by next week, not this week, and Anna walked back to the hotel and sat on the edge of the bed and did the arithmetic again. The knock came before supper. She opened the door and Jesse Wren was standing in the hallway holding a covered pot with both hands and the serious expression of someone executing an important errand. "Papa made soup," he said. "He said you probably had not eaten." Behind him in the hallway, at a distance that made clear he had sent the boy ahead rather than knock himself, Thomas Wren was looking at the wallpaper. "He did not have to do that," Anna said. I know, Jesse said. He does things he does not have to do. Clara says it is because Mama is gone and he has all this extra and does not know where to put it. He delivered this information with the gravity of a child who considers it relevant and important. Down the hall, Thomas Wren shut his eyes briefly. Anna took the pot. That line from Jesse stayed with me. I will tell you that plainly. A boy of 8 should not have to carry that kind of understanding about his own father's grief. But he did, and he handed it to a stranger in a hotel hallway like it was simply the truth, and the truth was worth giving. She stayed a second night and a third because Mrs. Garner sent word that there was work starting Friday, which meant Anna needed to be in Harlow on Friday, which required money she did not quite have. That problem resolved itself when she came down Thursday morning, and the clerk told her 3 more nights had been settled. She found Thomas at the feed store loading sacks into his wagon. You did not have to do that, she said. I know, he said. He kept working without stopping. I will pay you back, she said. You do not need to, he said. I will anyway, she said. He set down the sack he was holding and looked at her directly, not measuring this time, just looking. All right, he said. You will. It was not charity, and he was not treating it as charity, and he understood without her having to explain it that those were 2 different things and that the difference mattered. She worked the laundry Friday, Saturday, and Monday. It was hard work in a hot room and she was competent at it, and Mrs. Garner told her Monday afternoon she could come back the following week. Not a solution, but the beginning of a direction. Thomas came by the laundry on Saturday with Jesse and Clara. He said he had an errand nearby. The laundry was not near anything he had mentioned needing. Jesse told her while his father spoke with Mrs. Garner that Clara had asked at breakfast whether the lady from Virginia was going to stay in Harlow. What did your father say? Anna asked. Jesse thought about it carefully. He said he did not know, Jesse said. But he said it the way he talks when he is hoping for something. Before we go any further, if this story is settling into you the way a good fire does, go ahead and hit subscribe and leave a like. It costs you nothing, and it means the world. Now let's get back to Anna and Thomas. Clara spoke to her for the first time on a Sunday. Thomas had brought the children to church and Anna had gone alone and found them 3 rows ahead, and afterward Thomas had introduced her to Reverend Marsh and several families from the surrounding valley with the ease of a man who has quietly made a decision without announcing it. They walked back along the main street, all 4 of them, in the natural way that happens when no one has planned it and everyone has simply accepted it. Clara walked beside her. She was quiet for a long while. Then she said, Do you know how to do hair properly? Yes, Anna said. Papa tries, Clara said. He has been practicing on the mare's tail, but it is not the same as a person. Anna looked at Thomas, who was walking ahead with Jesse and had either not heard this or was managing a remarkable performance of not having heard it. I could show you, Anna said. Clara said yes with the calm certainty of a 6-year-old who has already decided and is simply confirming it. That afternoon Anna sat on the hotel porch and braided Clara's hair while Jesse delivered a complete account of every horse on his father's ranch, including their individual personalities, preferences, and histories. Thomas sat in the remaining chair and said almost nothing, which she had come to understand was not absence. It was attention. He was listening to all of it. When it was time to leave, Clara held her hand for a moment before letting go. Thomas looked at his daughter's braid and then at Anna and said nothing. On the walk back to the wagon, Jesse announced at considerable volume, Papa, she should come to supper sometime. And Thomas said, Jesse, in the voice fathers use when a child has said the accurate thing at an inconvenient moment. And Anna looked at the mountains going dark above the valley and said nothing and felt something she had not felt in a very long time, the particular sensation of possibly being somewhere she was supposed to be. The invitation came through Jesse, as these things apparently did. Jesse had been told after the Sunday walk that he was not to invite Anna to supper without asking permission first. He had observed this rule by asking his father Tuesday morning, and Thomas had said they would see, which Jesse had translated as yes with the confidence of a boy who has learned to read his father's they will see correctly. Anna arrived at the Wren Ranch Wednesday evening to find the table set for 4 and Clara arranging dried wildflowers in a tin cup with the focused intensity of someone executing a carefully considered plan. Owen told me you were coming, Clara said. Jesse, Anna said, looking at the kitchen. He told me the same thing. I apologize for this. Do not apologize, Clara said, and went back to the flowers. The ranch house had been built by someone who understood what they were doing. Solid timber, well-fitted windows, everything placed where it made sense. It was also the house of a man who had been managing alone for 2 years, which meant it was orderly and functional and had the specific cheerlessness of a place that has forgotten what it feels like to have someone tend it beyond what is strictly necessary. Supper was good. Thomas cooked without ceremony, competently and without drawing attention to the fact. Jessie talked continuously. Clara watched Anna with the steady attention she appeared to have committed to for the long term. Thomas said the right things at the right moments. After supper, the children were sent to bed with a firmness that made clear he had something he wanted to say. He sat across the kitchen table with his coffee and said, "I want to ask you something directly because I do not have another way of doing it well." She waited. "How long are you planning to stay in Harlow?" he said. She looked at her cup. "I do not know," she said. "I do not have anywhere particular to be." He nodded once, working through something slowly. "That is not a bad answer," he said, which was not what she had expected to hear. "Why?" she said. He looked at his coffee. "Because I have a question I am not ready to ask yet," he said, "and I need you to still be in Harlow when I am ready to ask it." He asked her to come to the ranch the following Saturday, not for supper. He was specific about that. He wanted to show her something. He said this with the expression of a man who has rehearsed what he intends to say and is not certain it will survive the actual moment. She came Saturday. He showed her the ranch the way someone shows you something they care about and want you to understand. The north pasture and the south fence line. The barn where the horses were stabled. The kitchen garden on the east side that had gone to seed because the cattle had to come first and there were only so many hours. He showed her the pear tree his wife had planted the first spring, before the second child came, before everything changed. He showed her all of it without explaining why, as if the showing were the explanation. Then they sat on the porch and Jessie and Clara were visible in the yard working on something involving a length of rope that appeared to require both of them and considerable concentration. Thomas turned his coffee cup in his hands. "I am going to say something," he said, "and I want you to know that you can say no and nothing between us changes." She waited. "I need help with this place," he said. "Not only the practical things, though those as well. I need someone who understands how to make a house into something more than a house. Someone Jessie will take seriously. Someone Clara can learn from." He looked at the mountains. "I need someone who will be here properly. Not passing through." He looked at her directly. "I am talking about a family." The Wyoming afternoon held them both in it. "I know you do not know me well enough yet to answer," he said. "I am not asking for the answer today. I am telling you what I am thinking because you have been straight with me since the first day and it seemed right to be straight back." She looked at this man, careful and plain-spoken and entirely without performance, who had sent his boy with soup and settled a hotel bill without once mentioning it and shown her a dead kitchen garden the way another man might show her his heart. "Daniel," she said. "Thomas," he said quietly. She almost smiled. "Thomas," she said. "I will think on it." "That is all I am asking," he said, and he meant it completely. The complication arrived Monday. His name was Frank Aldous, 41 years old, owned the timber supply operation on the South Road out of Harlow, widowed the previous spring, and entirely comfortable with his own prospects. He came to the laundry while Anna was working with the easy confidence of a man who has been told often enough that he is a solid choice that he has stopped questioning it. He was agreeable. He was well established. He asked if she might like to attend the Callaway social on Saturday evening with the practiced pleasantness of someone who expects a yes. She thanked him and said she would think about it. Mrs. Garner, who had been folding linens 4 feet away, said nothing until he had gone through the door. "Frank Aldous," she said, in the tone of someone making an introduction. Then good man. Steady. Well thought of. His late wife was a decent woman. She looked at Anna over the linen. "He would take care of you." Anna kept working. "The whole valley thinks Thomas Wren is too dug into his ways to take another wife," Mrs. Garner said, with the directness of a woman who considers hesitation and inefficiency to be related problems. "They think he will work that ranch alone until those children are grown." She folded the last sheet. "I am not saying they are right. I am saying that is what people think." Anna thought about it the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. She thought about Frank Aldous, who was steady and agreeable and would without question take care of her. She thought about what it meant to choose someone because he was steady and agreeable versus choosing someone for a reason that was harder to name but considerably more specific. A dead kitchen garden shone without apology. A coffee cup turned slowly in careful hands. A boy who carried soup to a hotel room door. She thought about what she had told herself in the first week, lying in the hotel room listening to the Wyoming wind come off the mountains. That she was afraid of wanting something too much, of reaching for the nearest available answer because the right answer had not arrived. Frank Aldous was the nearest available answer, and she understood, standing at the laundry press with the afternoon light coming flat through the window, that nearest and right were not always pointing in the same direction. She had let herself choose nearest before in smaller ways, and she was not going to do it again. She thought about Thomas's proposal for another week. Not the practical side of it, which had been plain from the beginning. On one side, the laundry and the hotel room and $3.80 arriving in Harlow with no one waiting and no one knowing her name. On the other, a ranch and a house and 2 children who had apparently already decided, and a man who showed you a pear tree the way other men show you everything that matters. The harder question was whether she was saying yes to Thomas Wren or yes to not being alone anymore, and whether there was a difference between those things, and whether the difference mattered. She had been alone a long time. Not always in the physical sense, but alone the way you are alone when you are always the one holding things together for everyone else and no one is holding anything for you. She was afraid that the wanting of it would make her accept something that was almost right and convince herself it was enough. On Thursday she rode out to the ranch to return a book Thomas had lent her. Clara was on the porch working at a piece of mending with more determination than technique. She looked up. "Are you going to stay?" Clara said. "I am still thinking about it," Anna said. "Jesse thinks you will," Clara said. She smoothed the cloth in her lap. "He says Papa is different when you are here." "Different how?" Anna said. Clara considered this with the gravity she brought to most things. "Like he is not carrying everything by himself," she said. Then she went back to the mending. Anna sat on the porch step and looked at the mountains going pale in the afternoon haze and understood with a quiet certainty that arrives when a child says the plain thing without knowing what they have said, that she had been asking herself the wrong question all week. The right question was simpler. Did she want to hold things alongside someone instead of alone? The answer to that had been yes for longer than she could accurately measure. She had simply been afraid to say it out loud because real things can be lost, and she had lost enough to know exactly what that costs. She found Thomas on Friday morning at the north fence. She had not planned to go looking for him. She had meant to go to the laundry. She had walked 2 blocks and stopped and turned around because she had her answer, and carrying it one more day felt like a waste of time that neither of them needed to spend. He saw her crossing the field and stopped working and waited, with the patience of a man who has committed himself to not assuming anything. She stopped at the fence. "I have been thinking about what you said," she said. "I know," he said. "I want to say yes," she said. "But I need to say something first." He waited. "I am not saying yes because I have no other place to be," she said. "I have the laundry. I had another offer this week from a man the whole town considers a reasonable prospect." She looked at him straight. "I am saying yes because of Jesse explaining every horse on this property for 45 minutes, and because Clara asked me to do her hair, and because you showed me a garden gone to seed like it was the most honest thing you could think to show me." She paused. "I am saying yes because of you. Not because of what is on the other side of you." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I need to tell you something." She waited. "When I saw you on those hotel steps," he said, "Jesse asked why you looked like something had gone wrong, and I told him it was not our place. I believed that when I said it. I walked to the end of the street and I stopped because I kept thinking about the morning I first spoke to my wife, how close I came to walking past, how different the whole shape of my life would have been if I had kept going." He looked at the fence post. "I turned around and came back and Jesse had already started talking to you." The near smile came. "He has been trying to give me a second chance at it ever since." She looked at this man with his fence post and his gray-touched jaw and his boy who brought soup to strangers in hotel hallways. "Yes," she said. Simply and completely. Yes. They married in November at the Harlow church. Jesse was the most openly pleased person present and made no attempt to conceal it, which was consistent with his general character. Clara wore the ribbon Anna had braided into her hair on the hotel porch and stood very straight with the composure of someone who understands that she is participating in something she has been quietly working toward for some time. Thomas stood at the front of the church and watched Anna walk toward him and thought about a Wednesday afternoon in September and a woman on hotel steps and a boy who asked the blunt honest question at exactly the necessary moment. The practical work began in January. The fence lines and the cattle patterns and the particular logic of which pasture held moisture through a dry summer and which did not. The unspoken rhythms of a household that had developed its own grammar over 2 years of managing without her. Jessie taught her about the horses with the seriousness of someone conferring specialized knowledge. Clara taught her without saying so where her mother had stood in the kitchen and what that place meant. Anna learned. She had been learning how to hold things together since she was 15. The difference now was that someone was standing in it alongside her. The kitchen garden was her first real project at the ranch. She cleared it in October and turned the ground and set it right for the winter and for the spring planting that would follow. Thomas came out one evening and stood watching. "My wife planted the pear tree," he said. "The first year we were here." "I know," Anna said. "You showed me." "She should be known about," he said. "By Jessie and Clara." "By you." "Then we make sure she is," Anna said. "We keep the stories. We keep the tree." Something settled in him that evening that had not been settled in 2 years. In May, Clara stood under the pear tree while it was in full bloom and looked up at the white flowers with the expression of a child seeing something she has been told about and is finally seeing for herself. "Mama planted that," Jessie told her. "First spring." "I know," Clara said. "Eliza told me." Anna heard this from the porch that evening, all 4 chairs full, the Wyoming mountains holding their last light above the valley. Thomas looked at his children and then at Anna, her hair loose from its pins the way it always was by evening, reading in the chair beside him, entirely at home in it. He said nothing. There was nothing that needed saying. She looked up, found his eyes, and looked back at her book. The Wyoming evening held all 4 of them, and the holding felt, for the first time in 2 years, like exactly enough. Anna Briggs arrived in Harlow, Wyoming with a canvas bag, $3.80, and no one left in the world who was waiting for her. She sat on hotel steps doing the arithmetic of a life that had come up short. And a boy of 8 stopped in front of her and said, "You look like something went wrong." I think about Jessie often. About what it means to be that unafraid of the plain question. Adults learn over time to walk past the person on the steps. We learn to make it someone else's business. We learn the quiet 100 ways of not getting involved. Jessie had not learned any of that yet. He stopped and he said the true thing, and his father walked to the end of the street and turned around. Do not walk past the person on the steps. Ask the question. Turn around at the end of the street. There is also something worth saying about Anna, about the moment she stood at the laundry press on a Monday afternoon and understood that nearest and right are not always pointing the same direction. That is not an easy thing to see clearly, especially when you are tired and the nearest option is genuinely decent and the right one is uncertain. She saw it clearly anyway, and she made the harder choice. The right things usually ask something of you. That is part of how you know they are the right things. Thank you for riding with me today. Wherever you are in this world, I am glad you were here. Until next time, keep riding.